What was your first name again?
I'm Lorian.
Lorian. Okay, I did remember you down at the Darby's Cafe.
Yeah.
You were there.
That was an interesting
Well,
conversation.
after I left, was the conversation
There was nothing.
robust?
The only thing that people were uncomfortable talking about in front of you was tonight.
Well, there are just and unjust laws, and it's been said that we have a duty to obey just laws, but we also have a duty to disobey unjust ones that are intrinsically unjust. Like I reserve the right to lie to a Nazi about whether my friend's a Jew.
Did you ever read that terrible review of? Apparently, they were doing it was an amateur production of.
I hope I don't get arrested for this. Jeez.
No, you have to sleep or lie and have camping.
Well, I'm handicapped. So.
It was an amateur production of The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh yeah, I read the book.
Finally, the audience shouted, "She's in the attic!" After the first act, the Nazis came back on. Oh well.
There we go. So you didn't bring a chair, huh?
I have a meeting with the pastor about my women's shelter tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not here that long.
Now, is this like strictly women's shelter?
Interfaith Works operates, or he provides two faith-based efforts for single men and women. Our women's shelter rotates every 2 weeks to about 15 churches, and our men's shelter is run by the Catholic parishes. And so we're moving to Tumwater and on next week, and so I have a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning with Pam Parsons from Tumwater United Methodist Church.
Who, Pam?
Pam Parsons, she's
Okay.
a pastor there.
Okay.
So we have to discuss the logistics of how do we provide for good to see a bird. Hey, you leave it alone.
All right, you make good signs. I was hoping that somebody had some signs that said, homeless people off the grass, or or like on the bathrooms, no homeless allowed.
I'm tired of stepping over you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
One of the things that last night I kind of like to pass along to you that people don't understand, we all expect to be able to honor our confidences that we give to each other, and the law even has like privileged communication, like with your lawyer, with your doctor, with your preacher. Yeah, but none of those privileged conversations shields any crimes that are being plotted or contemplated in the future. They only protect communication about past tense crimes, not future ones. If you go to an attorney and tell him something you're going to do, he is obligated under his code of ethics to inform the judge or the system that you're planning on lying on the stand or whatever you're planning on doing.
The strength of any good civil disobedience movement is that it lets the machine know exactly what it's thinking and where it's going and what it's going to do, and it says, your job, if you want to take it, is to stop us. But here's what we're going to do.
That's right. Yeah, civil disobedience actually requires you to do whatever you're doing openly.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And that means you can't wear masks.
That's true.
You can't hide from the press.
Yeah. That's
You
true.
can't engage in the conspiratorial mindset. You have to be out there saying, this is my body, and you can do with it as you want.
Well, you're old enough that you're probably well read, but a lot of our young people haven't had time yet to read all of these essays.
I knew these very things when I was 20.
Yeah. Well, if you've read Thoreau, I mean, he talks about it.
I think that the whole sort of conspiratorial mindset of hiding behind stuff is emotionally satisfying.
It's, I hesitate to condemn people because it's scary looking like the people, like, you know, at a dungeon, an isolation cell, like the grand jury resistors are looking at. You know,
Yeah, but you know what? They only have so many of those cells, and people volunteer to go.
except that I ain't volunteering to go.
If this were tomorrow night, I would have a sleeping bag here.
Yeah.
But I am balancing. I am balancing for my belief that we really need to get people arrested on this issue, so somebody can have standing to bring a lawsuit against the court.
Where are the homeless? I
They're
see.
not here
Yeah.
because they're in shelter.
Or they're afraid to be here.
No, they're smart enough not to be here because they all got fucking warrants out here.
Yes, exactly, exactly. The homeless at the in Camp High Pat. Are you one of the homeless who comes down? I don't know. That looks like camping gear to me.
Looks like a blanket for my back seat.
That could be camping gear. You could be in violation of the ordinance.
When the state told them to clear out of Heritage Park during the Occupy, 24 hours before the police said they were going to come in and physically clear everything out and everybody that was left, all the homeless had left.
Oh yeah.
They know.
Party was over.
They know.
That party was over.
The only people that remained were the political activists.
And nobody got arrested.
No, I thought that was great.
One of the hundreds of people stood there and said, "Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. You have to take me away." There was no resistance. The cops just walked through and cleaned it up, and everybody just got back up. There was no count. And I'm not saying
Well, they all look like Darth Vader.
You stand there and you say, "I'm sorry, I'm not moving," and you will have to. I'm sorry, but you'll have to physically remove me. And no one did that.
No.
Not even asking to be arrested, but saying, "No, I am not under my own power going to leave."
Now you raise an interesting point.
And if you let the people do that to you, and if that radical left, hard left position in this town, and nobody stands up,
You've
got nothing.
This is Pat.
Hi Pat, my name is Lorian. Good evening.
And he works
I
with.
saw you the other night.
Yeah, I work with Interface Group.
Yeah, it's one of the church-oriented outreach coalitions. But I have something that I'd like you to consider. I've thought a lot about this. The people that weren't getting arrested, the people that are here tonight, they're all privileged. They have something to lose. For the same reason I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to lose what I've got. The homeless have nothing left. So
They have nothing to lose, but they're still not here.
well, right,
Sorry.
because they don't want to spend the night in jail. But if there's to be a radical change, it's going to have to come from the bottom up, not from the top down. Huh?
It's always the middle class decides they are tired of what's going on. The poor never change anything. It's the middle class and the rich.
That's
that
not.
decide
I can cite a historical example as a counterexample.
I'm speaking of America.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about Simon Bolivar, and it was the gauchos that didn't have money for shoes that were the backbone of that revolution.
The Haitian slave rebellion. I mean, there are many examples of this, but not in America.
That's true.
And America is this really weird, unique place. I mean, we are ahistorical in where we came from, where we're at. I just got done reading a book called The Master and on the Mountain, the history of Thomas Jefferson and his slaves.
Sally Heming.
Yes. And if you look at him, Thomas Jefferson is portrayed as this man who was complicated and wrestled with slavery, right? But if you actually look at his logbooks, his letters, his writing, and the women that and the children that he sired, it was very clear that Thomas Jefferson was a slave.
Well, yeah, he owns slaves. Yeah, that's well known.
But then we talk about, well, Thomas Jefferson was ambivalent about it. No, he wasn't ambivalent about it. He made a lot of money. He figured out just owning slaves and their natural reproduction with a 4% return on capital by doing nothing.
Well, you have to
The
feed
point
them.
being,
That's like saying you're going to get rich raising ostriches.
here's Thomas Jefferson. Here he's a slaver. He's writing this incredibly liberal, progressive ideologies. My point being that slavery in this country is the slavery mindset we still have. And I see it in right now, where it comes openly in issues about homosexuality and marriage and freedom. And I see it with homelessness too. There's a dominant power and there's a submissive power. And the government, we as a society are saying, the homeless are less important, they're less important, which is the very same plot that's based on slavery, that's the underlying of slavery. There's a class of people that we're going to identify and we're going to dehumanize, and then we can do anything more than
Well, would you agree that we need to distinguish between charity and civil rights?
I think there's
You don't think it's a distinction with a difference?
Charity is the execution of civil rights.
No.
It's your belief in civil rights that constitutes the charity. I don't think they are separate, yes, but they're so wound up. You can.
Well, I'm going to try to unwind them here with two examples. Okay, and maybe a third, but you got your phone with you? Maybe a third, Scissor Sam. Now, Scissor Sam, he was like one of the last real hobos, and he goes back a long ways when I was a very young man. I met him on a Greyhound. But the other two examples, there was a guy sleeping under the overhang of the public library here, and they cited him and made him go to court. So I was talking to him, I was trying to help him out because I'm paralegal. And I was asking him what happened, and then the security guy from the library came out, and I was recording him the whole time I was talking to him. He didn't know that, but I don't need to tell him because we're out in a public area. And so the gentleman, he was about in his early 60s, and I said, he was a proud man, he's homeless. I said, are you homeless? And he took umbrage. He said, I'm not homeless. I said, well, you have a place to sleep? He says, I'm not homeless. I said, well, he says, I've got my skin. My skin is my home. There's another man some years before that I was talking to, and I said, well, they got a shelter. See, I hear this, this middle class thing, like, well, why can't they be just like us? Okay, and so I said, well, they had these shelters. And so the guy said he went to one of these shelters, and they started, taking off, these certain rules. And after he listened to a few, he turned around and he left. And when he was leaving, he told one of the other guys, he goes, that ain't freedom, man.
That's 41 shelter?
Well, yeah, but what the homeless are not all alike or monolithic any more than the rest of us. They're very different people. And one size doesn't fit all.
And the guys who are self-sufficient, who do not seek shelter,
Right.
I have no problems, and I cast no aspersions. I have a men's shelter with 12 beds. That's low barrier.
Well, you heard Dana talk, didn't you? He said he was homeless because he didn't want to go out and do what it took to have a home.
For every Dana, there are 50 to 100 people who don't like being homeless. I work at sidewalks.
Yeah.
And I admire and respect the guys who are up in Capital Force who said, fuck this.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I don't need you.
Yeah.
I'm doing my own
I
thing.
kind of resonate to those guys.
But again, they are the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
The rule is people are poor and they're addicted and they're crazy.
Some of them.
My women's shelter, I have 18 beds there. Easily half of my regular guests have significant
Mental issues?
mental issues.
Yeah.
And the people their heart and the kind of behaviors that they deal with, and just kind of, okay, fine, would have gotten any of those women booted from Salvation Army or other more structured shelters.
Yes, yes. Because they're not set up to deal with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're also talking, right now the city, the county, and service providers are all in this large discussion about shelter. What's going to happen when you close your rent shelter in August, the end of this month? So we're all trying to figure something out. One of the numbers that the elected officials left here is, well, how much capacity is being used? Which is a red herring and a false metric. It's not how much, because a very simple way to increase your bed numbers, or capacity used, just offer less beds. So my men's
What do you mean offer less beds?
I have 12.
Wait a minute. You said you increase your numbers by offering less beds? That doesn't make sense.
Exactly. And I'll explain that. I have 12 shelter beds for single men in 2 Catholic churches. We run at 100%. Every 9 beds are all full. Well, I can make those numbers 150 by offering 4 less beds a night. And then saying, okay, I don't have 12 beds, I have 8 beds, but we accommodated 12.
Oh, okay. So what you're expressing is a need.
But it's a fake number because
Yeah,
it's
you're saying you're cooking the books.
It's so easily manipulated. The real metric is some combination of number of shelter beds available. We need a new way of talking about this. That is what I'm trying to work on. We need to find a new metric that really expresses and captures the demand in the community for emergency shelter beds. And we're still figuring that out. Just an example of the craziness of this whole conversation. When the conversation should be, in America, if you want a safe, secure, warm place to sleep, you should have it, regardless. If you are hungry...
In other words, that it should be counted as a fundamental right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Life,
Liberty,
happiness. Life.
Unfortunately, that was in the Declaration of Independence, not in the Constitution. The Declaration was the more radical document.
I just heard some interesting concepts right here. Right to life. If you do guarantee the right to life, then you have to guarantee those elements of life. There are about 3 things people really need.
Food, shelter, and what's the third?
Maybe healthcare, just throwing that.
Well, I like to think air is pretty important. You got to breathe.
Food and shelter, that's a good start. What if we live in a society where every single person has shelter?
One of the thought exercises I work with people on is this. We think that homelessness means poverty. But there are communities that are intentionally poor. For instance, men and women who enter monasteries to take vow of poverty. They're poor, but they're not homeless. It's a matter of getting to where you're coming from.
Lifestyle.
We can so further advance the conversation by just looking at the terminology that we're using.
Oh, totally. That's true. Howard
But then
Zinn,
again, right.
not Howard Zinn, but Bill Cosby.
Any good thinker realizes this stuff. And I love those discussions, but at the same time, as an actual service provider, the last thing that my elected officials want to hear, the guys who give me money to open rent shelters, they don't want to hear that. They want, so how many beds can you provide for how much money? And by agreeing to that stupid argument, you've already lost, right? Because the power to define is if God gives man the dominion and says, name all my creatures. And that's a very conscious decision because the power to name is the power to define and control. Right? And so As a service provider, I have to balance.
That's take your hand?
Yes,
How you like that?
I'm Lorian.
Lorian?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I saw you at the power detector.
I try to keep my mouth shut. That was, not that I'm ashamed of what I'm thinking or saying, but that was a forum. That was a forum that I needed to listen at.
Yeah.
Talk to.
Word.
And I think I know stuff.
Word.
And if you really are smart, you know you don't know shit.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Charles, thank you for your time,
You
your
too,
work.
brother.
Very good
You take
conversation.
care. Look forward to seeing you again.